I am building my cabin with wattle and daub, woven sticks packed with clay and straw, the old builder's way.
Basket walls, you hear that? He's going to weave his house like a fish trap.
The sawyer's laughter silenced the sawmill. Men turned to watch. Robert didn't flinch. Elizabeth stepped closer.
The daub seals every crevice. No draft gets through. Wait for winter, William.
He knows the old ways. My husband isn't chasing fashion.
That afternoon, Robert stood on the clearing where his home would rise, the sawmill's laughter still ringing behind him.
We'll start with green willow. It bends without breaking. The foundation comes first.
He wove the lattice, the way men had done for 1,000 years, each stick locked against the next. Elizabeth watched him work, the mud still waiting in the stream. Winter was months away, but the sawyer's warning hung in the air like frost.
Did the old builders face the same laughter? Did their walls stand when others fell?
Day after day, Robert wove the green lattice higher, while Elizabeth hauled clay from the stream.
The daub will fill these gaps soon. Every crevice sealed.
At the stream, the clay was thick and gray. Elizabeth worked it between her fingers, feeling its promise.
Still playing with sticks, Robert. Mud won't stop a winter wind.
The wind doesn't need a big gap. One seam is enough. My walls won't have any.
I've heard the old wives say that mud walls breathe warm.
Wattle sets the bones. Daub fills the skin. No moving air gets through. That's the trick.
Why did the old ones trust mud and sticks for their homes?
Wood cracks and warps. Mud moves with the earth. It's been sheltering men since before sawmills.
The frame stood ready for daubing. William's mockery still echoed, but Robert's hands never slowed. Robert and Elizabeth mixed the gray clay with handfuls of straw until the daub was thick and heavy.
Pack it deep into the weave. Every stick must be buried.
It fills the gaps completely. Not even a finger of space.
The first wall rose solid, a seamless skin of earth. Robert stepped back, breathing hard. Elizabeth pressed her palm against the fresh daub and held it there. No draft, no whisper of moving air.
This isn't like the plank walls at the sawmill. The air is still. It's like the earth holding its breath.
Later, a neighbor passed by, carrying William's words like a cold draft. The sawyer asks if your mud walls are ready for frost.
Tell William to watch and wait. The mud doesn't listen to him.
He doesn't know what his own house leaks. I felt it.
Robert turned back to the daub, his hands calm. The first wall had spoken to Elizabeth alone, but it had spoken. By the time the first autumn chill touched the valley, Robert's cabin stood whole. The daub had hardened like stone.
It's finished. Solid as the old buildings my grandfather spoke of.
The air inside is so still. No cold fingers searching for gaps.
That night, they slept in the cabin for the first time. The fire burned low, but the walls held the warmth close. At William's house, his wife complained of the cold seeping through the plank walls.
It's just a bad plank, woman. I'll fix it. Not every house needs to be a mud basket.
But the draft persisted, and his wife wrapped her shawl tighter as the night deepened. A few days later, a neighbor visited Robert's cabin and paused at the door, surprised by the warmth.
He said he didn't feel a single draft. Asked if we'd used magic instead of mud.
Robert smiled faintly. The first cracks were appearing in the sawyer's world, though winter had not yet spoken. A day later, William came up the path with a wooden mallet in his hand. He didn't ask permission.
Heard your basket house is so tight a man can't find a crack. Thought I'd see for myself.
Look all you want, William. The walls don't hide.
William pressed the mallet against the daub and struck. The sound was dead, solid as packed earth.
No hollow echo here, but winter loosens everything. Mud will shrink and split.
The straw holds it together. These walls won't shrink like green wood.
He's searching for defeat, not truth.
Mark my words, Robert. The first hard frost will send these walls crumbling.
Then we'll wait. And you'll remember who built with mud.
William walked back toward his mill, the mallet hanging at his side, the sound of the wall still in his ears. The first hard frost of winter crept into the valley overnight, painting every window with ice.
Not a single crystal inside. The walls breathe warm, just as he said.
But in the plank cabins, the frost didn't stay outside. It bloomed along the inner seams. At William's house, his wife ran a finger along a white streak that started at a plank joint.
It's nothing but condensation. A bit of caulk and it's fixed.
Neighbors compared notes. Only the basket house let a man sleep without a draft.
They're starting to see, Elizabeth. The daub doesn't lie.
One light frost proves nothing. Mud can't hold against a real freeze.
But Robert's walls showed no streak, no crack, no glisten of ice. At the Sawyer's house, frost grew thicker, and his wife's shawl could no longer stop the cold. One morning, with frost still on the ground, Elizabeth walked the old trail above the creek, where the first settlers' cabins had stood. A tangle of brush and a sagging wall caught her eye. She knelt and pulled away the dead grass.
There's a pattern under this mud. Sticks laid in a weave, just like Robert's.
She held a fragment of ancient daub, the lattice clearly visible, though the clay had weathered thin.
This is the same craft, the same walls, built before the sawmill ever turned.
She tucked the piece into her pocket, her heart beating with a secret that could change everything. Down at the sawmill, William's yard was quieter than it had been in years. Planks stacked, but orders slowed.
They're all listening to that mud builder now. A bit of frost, and they forget what real wood is.
Men who once bought lumber by the wagon load now hesitated, waiting to see which house winter would break. Elizabeth walked home, the fragment heavy in her pocket. The past was speaking, and only she could hear it. The frosts kept coming, and the valley called a meeting. Men gathered in the cramped hall, cold still in their bones.
Wattle and daub leaves no gap for moving air. That's why our cabin sleeps warm.
Warm? You are sleeping in a mud hut, Robert. Wait until a real blizzard hits. Then we'll see those basket walls collapse.
Some men nodded with William. Others leaned toward Robert, remembering their own drafty nights.
I've pressed my hand against our walls every cold morning. Not once a whisper of wind. I know what leaks mean, and our home has none.
A man near the door chuckled. Mud walls? Next you'll say the old ones knew better than a Sawyer.
The old ones built with mud because they had no tools. We've moved on.
He doesn't see what's right in front of him. Walls that hold while his own crack.
By the end of the meeting, the room was divided. Half waited for Robert to fail. The other half saw hope in the old craft. Robert walked home with Elizabeth, the fragments still hidden in her pocket, but a new fire in his chest. That night, a bitter freeze descended. A neighbor's plank cabin groaned, and then a plank snapped outward with a crack like a gunshot. A mother grabbed her children and fled into the snow. The only light for half a mile was the warm glow of Robert's cabin.
Come inside, quickly. There's a fire and walls that hold the cold outside.
The daub won't let the wind through. Stay as long as you need.
The displaced family gathered by the hearth, their shivering slowly easing. Not a single draft touched them. At William's house, a thin crack had opened between two planks. His wife pointed to it, her face pale.
It's just a draft. I'll pack it with oakum in the morning.
But the crack widened through the night, and the wind sang a thin, cold note through the gap. While Robert's cabin held two families in warmth, William's pride froze harder than the valley outside. Men now looked at the basket house not as a joke, but as a refuge. The Sawyer's proof was crumbling around him. The freeze held for 3 more days. 3 more plank cabins split their seams, but Robert's walls stood seamless. In William's house, his wife's voice broke the silence. "The children are blue with cold, William. Please."
I told you, it's nothing but a bad plank. I'll fix it when the weather breaks. But the cracks are everywhere now, and the sawmill is quiet. What if I've been wrong?
Later, he walked to his mill alone. The sawdust was frozen hard. He stared at his tools as if seeing them for the first time.
This piece is older than any house in the valley. Did they know a winter like this would come, Robert? When I found this, the old wall still held. What if the worst is still ahead?
Then we'll be ready. These walls haven't forgotten how to stand.
Far across the valley, the old folk muttered of a winter that froze the river solid. They said it was due again. Robert pulled the door shut, but the cold outside promised more than frost. A true test was gathering. The valley braced for the freeze the old folk had whispered of. Snow fell silent and thick.
Robert, this pattern is the same as our walls. The first settlers must have built just like this.
When the thaw comes, we'll follow the creek to that old ruin. I want to see the whole wall.
They sat by the fire, the fragment between them a link to a past that had faced this same cold. At William's house, his wife's cough grew deep and ragged. The sound cut through the crackling fire, and William's jaw tightened. He packed oakum into the widening gaps, but the cold still found its way inside.
She's getting worse. The children can't sleep. Maybe I should go to Robert's.
In the basket house, Robert and Elizabeth checked every inch of wall. No crack, no weakness. Outside, the sky turned iron gray, and the first wind of the great blizzard moaned through the pines. That night, the blizzard struck with a howl that shook the mountains. Snow fell sideways, cold enough to bite bone.
Listen to it, scream, but inside, not a candle flickers.
The daub holds the air still. That's all that matters.
At William's house, he pressed rags into the gaps, but the wind found every crevice. A thin whistle sang through the planks. Frost spread white fingers across the inner wall.
I can't keep them warm. Not like this. Maybe I should go to Robert.
His wife coughed, and his children huddled together, their breath misting in the cold. In Robert's cabin, the fire burned steady, and the walls felt like a warm hand pressed against the storm.
I keep thinking of that old wall. It must have stood through winters just like this.
Outside, the blizzard raged. The basket house didn't budge. Its walls had been waiting for this night. The blizzard screamed through the second day. Snow piled higher than a man's waist, and the wind never eased.
I've never heard a storm this long, but the walls don't care.
In William's cabin, his wife's eyes met his, wild with fear. The children can't last another night in this.
She's right. Every plank in this house is a liar. I have to go.
He pulled on his heaviest coat and wrapped a blanket around his shoulders. The door rattled as he forced it open. The storm swallowed him instantly. Icy needles stung his face, and the wind nearly knocked him down. He leaned into it, one hand raised to shield his eyes. Every step through the drifts was a battle. Somewhere ahead, a faint yellow glow marked Robert's cabin. It was the only light in the white darkness. He stumbled toward it, the blanket frozen stiff on his back. The wind screamed, but he no longer heard it. The light grew closer. For the first time in days, the sawyer was going where he once swore never to step. A heavy pounding shook the cabin door. Robert and Elizabeth exchanged a glance. No one should be out in this.
William? Good Lord, what are you?
My family. They can't last the night. The cracks. I need your walls, Robert. Please.
Robert stood in the threshold, the wind howling behind William. For a long moment, he looked at the man who had mocked him.
There's no draft in here. Get them inside, now.
Elizabeth was already pulling on her coat. Together they rushed into the blizzard and returned with the sawyer's shivering wife and children.
Sit by the fire. We have blankets and hot tea.
The two families crowded together in the orange glow, the basket house enfolding them all without a single cold whisper. William sat apart, his back against a clay wall. His hand touched the daub as if feeling a stranger's face.
It's solid, no seams. The wind can't find a fingerhold. I've built the wrong walls all my life. This wall, how does it hold? No gaps, no wind. What's the trick?
Woven sticks for the bones, clay and straw for the skin. No seams, no moving air.
Robert pulled a small sample from the shelf, sticks woven tight, daub packed between them.
The 1,000-year method. No plank can seal like this.
Elizabeth watched from the hearth, the ancient fragment resting in her palm. William stared at the sample, his jaw working silently.
All those years at the mill, and I never understood. The gap is the enemy.
It's the same pattern as the old ruin. Someone built this way long before us.
Outside, the blizzard's howl softened for the first time in days. The wind still blew, but the fury was fading.
The storm is passing, but the walls won't forget what they learned.
The blizzard's fury died before dawn. 7-foot drifts buried the valley, but a pale sun broke through the clouds. Robert pushed the door open. The basket house stood unchanged, its walls a dark, firm line against the white. William walked toward his own home, dread tightening his chest. Where planks had been, gaps now yawned. Frost painted the broken edges, and a shutter hung by one hinge.
It's a ruin already. Every nail I drove was a lie.
William, there's something you need to see. It's time. The old wall up the creek, the one I found this fragment in. The pattern is exactly the same as ours.
Robert nodded. They'd planned this since the first freeze. The walk would be hard, but the truth was worth it.
The old builders. They knew how to stand against this cold, and I mocked them.
Through the deep snow, they began the climb toward the forgotten cabin. The answers had waited long enough. The old ruin emerged from the snow like a memory. Half a wall still stood, its daub cracked, but the weave beneath unmistakable.
Look at the pattern, William. The same weave, the same clay. This wall has stood for generations.
William reached out, his scarred hand tracing the ancient lattice. The wood was brittle, but the design was exact.
Robert didn't reinvent anything. He just remembered what the first builders already knew.
They had no mills, no sawn planks, just the river clay and the willow. And their walls outlasted them.
The daub on the old wall was thin with age, but it still blocked the wind. The same design that had saved two families now revealed its origin.
This is the valley's first cabin. William, built the way I built mine. The land taught us, and we forgot.
I called it a basket, but a basket holds what matters.
The twist, hidden in plain sight, was now undeniable. Robert's method was not a gamble. It was the original way of the valley, and standing in the snow beside the proof, the sawyer, who had mocked every mud wall, finally understood.
Robert, will you teach me? I want to build these walls myself.
I'll show you. It's simpler than milling a plank. The land gives everything.
Robert knelt and began threading a green stick through the uprights, his hands moving in a rhythm older than the valley.
My fingers are too thick. I am used to a saw, not a dance of sticks.
Slow down. Let the willow guide you. It wants to bend.
The sawyer's hands, scarred from years of pushing timber, began to find the weave. Stubborn at first, then sure.
He's not just learning to build. He's learning to belong to this place.
By afternoon, townsfolk had gathered. They watched the sawyer's hands, once raised in mockery, now receiving the craft.
It's true. No gap, no weakness. The old ones were right.
And there in the snow, the man who had called them basket walls began to build one himself, the past flowing through his hands. When the thaw finally came, it exposed the valley's wounds. Plank cabins gaped, their seams opened wide by the freeze.
Our walls are smooth as the day we packed them. Not a single crack.
William's house, by contrast, leaned badly. Planks had warped beyond repair.
I've spent years saying mud walls would fall, but the only walls still standing are the ones I mocked. Robert's basket house saved my family. I'll build my new home the same way.
The valley is turning back to what it once knew. The old way isn't lost anymore.
Other families, their homes split by frost, listened. The sawmill's yard stood silent. That spring, no one ordered new planks. The creek beds became quarries for clay. Men who once carried lumber now carried bundles of willow. The 1,000-year method had returned.
The land already knew how to shelter us. We just had to listen.
Spring came soft and green, the snow finally releasing its hold. On the site where William's plank house had failed, a new frame rose, woven willow and fresh clay.
See, boy, the stick goes under, then over, like a basket, but stronger, just the way Robert taught me.
His young son's hands mimicked the pattern, the green willow bending willingly under his small fingers.
He's learning fast. You've got a builder in the family.
Elizabeth stood at the clearing's edge, the fragment of ancient daub still in her pocket. The sound of weaving had replaced the scream of the saw.
He's passing it on. The craft won't die now. It'll be here for the next winter, and the one after.
The sawmill's doors stayed shut. Planks gathered dust while the creek beds gave up clay. Robert and William worked side by side, their hands meeting the willow in the same curve.
I'll never cut another plank for a wall. This is how we should have always built.
And as the first wildflowers bloomed around the old ruin, the valley's oldest craft became its newest promise. In the soft light of a late spring evening, Robert and Elizabeth stood before their home. The daub walls, unchanged by the worst winter, glowed like settled earth.
Look at the valley, Robert. 3 new wattle frames already rising. The old way is waking up.
She touched the wall beside the door, still smooth, still without a crack, and a deep, quiet satisfaction settled in her chest. From her pocket, she drew the ancient piece of daub and cradled it in her palm.
This little piece started it all. It was waiting for someone to remember.
We didn't invent anything. We just listened to the ones who built before us.
A gentle breeze carried the scent of thawing earth and willow sap. The sawmill's scream was now a memory.
The walls have already won. There's nothing left to prove.
The fragment rested in Elizabeth's hand, and the clay wall beside her rested in the knowledge of 1,000 winters. They stood together as the light faded, the valley full of builders who had finally remembered how to listen. At the old ruin, spring wildflowers pushed through the fallen daub. The ancient weave still held its shape, a quiet echo of a craft that had refused to die. The frost that had split so many plank walls had only softened this clay, feeding the grass that now grew through its cracks. In the distance, a new frame rose. William's home, the same pattern woven into fresh willow and mud, past and present, stood in one view. The first cabin of the valley, and its newest, built by the same hands in a different age. The sawmill's silence was complete now. Planks lay forgotten as the valley turned back to the creek beds and the willow groves. Children would learn this weave from their fathers, and no winter would catch them unprepared again. The fragment Elizabeth once found was no longer a relic. It was a seed that had found fertile ground, and in the quiet of that spring evening, the land itself seemed to breathe easier, its oldest wisdom restored. The camera lingers on the ancient wall, and the new one beyond, connected by the same simple rhythm of over and under. Some knowledge doesn't belong to progress. It belongs to the earth, waiting for someone humble enough to bend down and listen.